Okay, what we're working on today is a 98 Grand Caravan. Come in with a complaint that the transmission doesn't want to shift right. It's kind of a common thing with these. Sometimes you get away with changing the filter, and sometimes the transmission is just junk. So the cheapest way to do it, change the filter, see what happens, and go from there. And that's what we're going to do today, and I'm going to show you how to change the filter in one of these 98 Grand Caravans. So let's get started. Okay, we're underneath the vehicle. As you can see, there's lots of bolts in these pans. What you want to do first is get yourself a 10mm socket, a 3-inch extension, and a 3/8 ratchet. And you're going to loosen half the bolts up, starting with the front of the transmission. Loosen half the bolts up, and then the other half take out. And then what you're going to need is a flat screwdriver and possibly a hammer. So first thing we're going to do, loosen these bolts up. Now if you have access to an air ratchet, I suggest you use it, because it is tedious getting these out of here. And I am going to use an air ratchet. But like I said, front half loosen up, back half take off, and what that's going to do is let the fluid drain down, and you're not going to get covered. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll go from there. Okay, as you can see, I got the front ones loosened up, and then the back ones are all taken out. So either way, you're going to make a mess. I mean, it's just the way it is with these. Some of them, the Toyotas have a drain plug in them, which is a great idea, but Dodge hasn't come up with that one yet. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get your thin screwdriver, and you're going to want to get in between here and just kind of pry a little bit, see if the pan comes down. If it doesn't come down, what you're going to have to do is get your hammer, a small hammer, and just tap in between the pan and the transmission, and it will come down enough to let the oil drain out. So that's what we're going to do right now. And the reason why I'm shooting a video this way is my tripod broke, so I can't do both at the same time, so please forgive me for that. But just kind of tap your screwdriver in there, and it will come down. So I'll see you in just a second. Okay, now as you can see, the back popped loose, and it's letting it all drain down in. And go ahead and let the fluid drain. That way you don't have a mess. And just to show you, I've been doing this for years, and as you can see, I got a mess on the floor because I missed the drain pan. So you make a mess, you make a mess. I mean, as you can see, I made a mess. Not afraid to show it. So when we get back, we're going to finish taking the rest of these bolts out, and I'll show you how to get the filter out. But I'm going to let this drain, and I'll get right back to you. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to take the front half of the bolts out that I told you to leave in there. And when you do that, just kind of hang on to the pan, because there's still fluid in there, see, as you can see there. So just kind of hang on to the pan and then let it drain in when you get the bolts out, and completely drain it out. But that's the next step. We're going to go ahead and take these other bolts out and pull that pan out of there, and we'll go from there. Okay, as you can see, the pan's down. This is your filter right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our pan, and as you can see, there's some oil in there, and some gasket and some metal. But we're going to set that off to the side, and then this filter should just come right down out of there, if I remember right. Just like that, just pull it straight down out and let that drain out. And while that's draining, we're going to go ahead and deal with the pan. We're going to get the pan cleaned up, the magnet cleaned up, and I'll show you how to do that. And then your gasket here, you can just pull that gasket down out of there, and it normally peels right out you might need a gasket scraper at some parts of it, but normally it just peels off. So, but let's worry about the pan right now, and we'll go from there. Okay, now what we're going to do is I use a parts washer. I like to use brake clean too. We're going to actually use both, but we're going to just dip this down in the parts washer. Get a rag or a brush and clean this all up as best as we can. And once I get this done, your magnet, just remember where your magnet goes, up here in the upper corner. As you can see, there's some big cuttings on that, and that's not normally a good situation. Very big cuttings. So that's not normally a good thing. But go ahead and clean your magnet off. And just remember it goes in the upper corner. I'll remind you here. Since I'm working one-handed, let me go ahead and get the pan cleaned, and I'll meet you over at the workbench. Okay, as you can see, we got our pan pretty clean there. We got our magnet clean. And remember, your magnet goes up in the narrower part of the pan up here on the corner. What we need to do is get this gasket off of here, and all I'm going to do is use a gasket scraper, and it'll just come right off there without any problems. But let me get that off there, and then we're going to go underneath and scrape the other gasket off. Okay, as you can see, there's still gasket material up here. Go ahead and just scrape it off, and once you get it scraped off, take a rag and wipe that down. But this gasket material will come right off there without, see, I mean, it just comes right off without any problems whatsoever. So let me go ahead and get that done, and we'll go from there. Okay, the gasket's off. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to get a clean rag and take some brake clean and go ahead and go around it, spray it on the rag, wipe that oil off, and then we're going to start on the pan. Okay, here's what you get in your box. You get your new filter. These filters are about, I'm going to say $20, maybe less. And you get the new O-ring already on the filter. You get the gasket, which I'm not even going to use. What I like to use is the Right Stuff, and that works better in any gasket you can get, and it's a lot less of a pain to use. So that's what we're going to use. If you want to use the gasket, more power to you. Just put a layer of Permatex, whatever you want to use, put the gasket down, and then put another layer of Permatex on top of that, and then tighten it up. But I find it so much easier, and if you try it, it's going to be a lot easier. So let's go ahead and we'll get started here. Okay, as you can see, I like to put a nice thin layer on, and you don't have to spend the money for the caulking gun on this. I just use this stuff enough that it's worth it to me. Put a nice thin layer on, and then once you get that layer on, go ahead and smear it around and smooth it out, and it'll work out really well for you. Really well. Okay, you don't need to see me do this, but like I said, smooth it out after you get it on there. Okay, as you can see, I got that nice and smooth. Kind of missed a spot here, but I got it nice and smooth the whole way around. And while that's setting up, we're going to go ahead and install our filter. Okay, we're going to go ahead and install our filter. As you can see, we got the O-ring back here. We got the hole right here for the O-ring, and that will slip right up in there. And then you got a notch or a pin that goes up in this one hole right here, and that should just slip right up in there like that. It's just kind of hard to do one-handed, so just make sure everything snaps in, and I'll get right back to you. Okay, as you can see, we got our filter in. It's it's a little loose, it's not going to hurt anything. That's normal. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and get our pan, put it up in there, get 2 bolts started, and we're going to start putting our bolts back in. Okay, we got 2 bolts started on either side, and what we're going to do is finish putting our bolts in, run them up snug, and then just tighten them up by hand with a ratchet. If you're using an air ratchet, do not use an air ratchet because you'll strip them out. We'll get to that part here in a minute, but let's go ahead and just put our bolts in and snug them up. Okay, I got my bolts snugged up. You don't have to reef these down. Just take your ratchet and start at the one corner and work your way around. See, as that one there isn't even budging. Don't go out towards the edge of your ratchet, because that's just more torque. Stay up front and just work around and go from there. And that way you don't have a chance of snapping anything off. Okay, your transmission fluid goes in right next to your battery here. I just pulled the dipstick out. And what you want to use is ATF plus 4, and we're going to start out with 4 quarts. We're going to start it up, check it. I believe it holds 6 total, but we're going to start out with 4 and we'll go from there. Okay, once you get your 4 quart in, go ahead and go in the vehicle, start it up.
Visit riverscasino.com for more details.
And then go ahead and just run it through your gears really slow. You'll feel it grab. And the whole way back up to park. Do that just a couple times. Leave it in neutral and let it run, and go out and check it and see where you're at in your dipstick. Okay, keep in mind on your transmission dipstick, you got warm and then you got hot. You want to stay down here where the warm's at, or the add is, or the cold, depends on what they say on the dipstick. You want to stay down a little lower, take it for a drive, bring it back, and then check it again. And you'll see exactly where it's at. Because on an oil dipstick, you want it to be up full. On a transmission dipstick, you don't. As you can see, it's down below here where it needs to be. And then we're going to go ahead and check it after we drive it. Okay, when you put in reverse before you leave, make sure that it's backing up and grabbing the way it should, the way it always did. Put it in drive, make sure it's going forward, in which it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this for a test drive. When we get back, we're going to check our fluid, make sure it's on full, or where it should be, hot. So make sure you get it up to temperature, and everything should be good. And we'll check for leaks also when we pull in the shop again. Okay, we're back. I have 4.5 quart in this, and it's right where it needs to be. Always check it running, check it in neutral, and everything should be good at 4.5 quart. You may have to add a little more, maybe a little less, but on this here, it is 4.5 quart. So, and it's shifting beautifully. I'm surprised. So, thanks for watching. Hope this helped you. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch up with you next time.